yeah, they did.
Bienvenidos a todos. Hi, welcome everyone. I'm Sandra, I'm the festival director. Hi. I'm very much looking forward to this panel. First of all, a huge thank you to Luci, Lenox, and the Actors Home for presenting this panel. And also a warm welcome to my panelists. Some of them I've known for over 20 years. Some of them I just met. So welcome to the Evolution. I'm so happy you came. And enjoy this incredible panel.
Welcome, everybody. It's so great to be back at Evolution. It's so great to see so many familiar faces, so many new faces. Like Sandra, I've known some of the people on the panel for a very, very long time, and some of them I've just met, but we've been in touch. The whole point of talking about this panel today and having these very special people is a new era of filmmaking. And I think we're all aware that the world is changing very rapidly at the moment. Our industry is changing practically by the month for lots of different reasons. Some positive, some maybe not so positive. But then the essential thing, which is what brings us all together, what is represented at Evolution, is storytelling. So it's to find our way in this new era, still to tell the stories that matter, still to make the amazing films. I hope everybody's going to see as much as possible at Evolution. But first of all, I will introduce the panel and me. I'm Luci Lenox. I'm a casting director. I work from Barcelona, so I'm based in Spain. But I work on lots of different projects, and I'm very happy to be here with Abby Harris, who is the founder of Altitude Management, which is a management service for actors. She's taken some of the most beloved stars, works with them, takes their process. One of the things I particularly like, which I think is very important, but she will talk about that more, is that matching people with philanthropic projects, which I think is very important to remember the mission of our industry. And she's great to have here. We have Georgi, who founded Das Imperium, who is... He is one of the boldest talent agents I know. He's always has this great range of actors. There are actors that I know that he's discovered because it doesn't matter where I go in the world, he's there. I go to Kosovo and I look at the dance floor and there he is, dancing. I mean, this is true. I was in Pristina. I can go anywhere and then suddenly, and he's quite distinctive. So you suddenly look and you see a pink Mohican somewhere and you think, oh, he's here discovering new talent that he then tries to match to filmmakers around the world. And he's now living in Portugal, right?
Right.
And we have Laura Yuste, who I know very well because we live in the same town.
I have my family here in Mallorca.
Laura, I've known since the very beginning of her career, and she's somebody she's always there working with new talent. There are lots of people who are now breaking through, and I say, oh, you did a really good job. And they said, oh, I worked with Laura. She coached me. She and I share a very strong philosophy on that when actors feel self-confident, they do their best work. And that is, so any actor who works with her is very, very lucky. And she always has a big smile. And
Thank you.
it's everywhere. Okay? And Matthias Frick, who is the founder of Spielkind agency. Matthias is another of those incredible talent agents that in the most unexpected places, he's suddenly there. In fact, I met Matthias in a very small town in Ireland called Kilkenny, and he was there with his hands, and it's a long, long time ago, and he's always got this sort of calm presence where you can see that he's watching, working out, he's very, very, I've worked with quite a few of his clients, and it's always, you can tell that he has his clients' best interests at heart. He's working how to get them into good international projects, keeping them, and having this very calm, professional, but joyful love for European filmmaking. So we collectively are incredibly lucky to have these people here with us today, which is thanks to Evolution and Sandra for bringing them. So I feel very privileged.
Thank you.
You're a great audience. You can stay. Okay, so what we're going to start with today, we're going to talk what is quite a serious issue for most actors. I think most of the people in the room are actors, and if they're not, you should understand more about the actor's process, so it's good. About how actors can navigate this new landscape. It's digital casting, every actor now has to know how to self-tape. It's very different than being in the room. Also about AI. Are we using AI? What do we like about it? There's supportive AI, there's disruptive AI, there's generative AI. We all have different opinions on it. We're all at a different stage of the learning process with it. Branding. Branding is extremely important, I think, for actors, as there's so much out there at the moment. And also something that is very close to my heart, which is emotional resilience. How do you survive in this process where there's going to be so much more opportunity, but so many more people available for a variety of reasons? And that, unfortunately, for actors means there's so many more no's. And also combined with this sense of insecurity that we have. But I think actors have always had that, so you just have to learn. But it's very important now to discuss emotional industry. These people are going to help us see what is at the heart of what's changing and also what's staying the same. So I have a lot to get through. At the end, we'll have about 20 minutes for a Q&A, so prepare your questions. I would make sure that your question makes sense so we can answer it. Look, let's get started, with the casting process. So we're going to start at the beginning. Well, for me, the beginning is not casting. Well, for me, the beginning is casting because when I get paid and I start working. The beginning, of course, is script, but that's not for today. So let's start with casting. It's something that's changed massively since the pandemic, I think, in my world. And we're doing much less in-person auditions, self-tapes. People are even using AI to help them with reading. There's this kind of AI casting bases that are creeping in. We all know about them. We have to talk about them. We have to be aware of them. But, some things stay the same. But I'm going to start with what do you guys think matters most in an audition, even in this digital era? Matthias, what matters most for you as in an audition?
I think it was very interesting because we had a panel beforehand with you, Laura, and with a conversation with a lot of actors that was very interesting in that regard because there is a big insecurity that I felt, and it is, I think the authenticity is a very important aspect because a lot of actors try to be not just in a character, of course, but also try to change something that is very essential because you bring a uniqueness into a character that wants to be seen. And I think this is something you should be proud of and something that you should show. And because everybody will see if you're not authentic in the character that you are showing in that very moment.
Mm-hmm. Laura, what would you add to that? When you're coaching somebody, what are you trying to get from them in the casting? What's important, whether they're going into the meeting, into the room, or they're doing self-tape?
What I see when we shoot a self-tape is that many actors are very used to do by himself, and there's something dangerous that is to self-direct till you are playing. So sometimes I see many actors that they are shooting the self-tape and they are like seeing from the outside and directing himself, and this is very dangerous. So what I recommend is to shoot with anyone that you are confident to direct, or if not, play 2-3 takes, and then you can watch and try to direct yourself, but not when you are playing.
Okay. George.
One after another. I try to used to say I speak more about my clients, the way we do it, to switch their head off. This is what I said often, because the moment where I send them something, it's often that they started to speculate what could be happen if. And that often keeps them away from being, using the word authentic, I'm not really like the word, but being the role, because I don't want to see them acting. And that's immediately, if this is happening, it's like, okay, give another try. And this is what I know, what I see in the entire world. It's not so much just in acting, that people getting away from themselves to be more a kind of a persona, or however they want to be liked, instead of they want to be so. And that's why I always say in first position, get your head off. The only thing you can do, enjoy what you're doing and play it. So.
Abby?
Yeah, I have a kind of perhaps rounded view of it, because I started in casting. I was then an agent manager for a long time, and I'm now a producer manager, so I'm kind of been on both sides of things. And one thing that hasn't changed at all is the need to be authentic, as Matthias says, or genuine, or we're all kind of saying the same thing, because at the end of the day, you can't second guess what the director or the producers want. You can only go and be who you are and perform as an actor in a wonderful way, and what the director is looking for is that person to walk in the room and then be that part. And you can't guess what that's going to be. So you have to go in with your own interpretation of what that is. And if it's not what they're looking for, don't take it personally, because that's what great casting is all about.
Yeah, I think that's I agree 100% with what everybody said. And I think that's one of the biggest tragedies that actors have to accept very early on in their careers. Because actors quite often want to be actors because they want to be somebody else. And as soon as you make peace and you are just yourself, and you just, as George said, embrace the roles without thinking about how to act, how to be, how to do, but you're just bringing you to the role, or the role to you, then that's when magic happens. And it's very important to know that you can't please everybody all the time. Like we could have some sides here, I give them to everybody in the room, and you do them, and I might think you're amazing, Abby might be like, ooh, I don't like what they've done, Matthias would be like, that's good, Georg would be like, that's crap, and Laura would be like, oh, we can really make that work. It's very important in this industry to remember that we aren't on a roadmap where everything is going to work for everybody. And it is being authentic, being you, and finding your joy in that, as the panelists are saying, that is so important.
Luci, let me add something on it, because I think this is really important. Because actors in general, so we're talking about in general, tend to be just seeing themselves out of their position. So on the other hand, they want to be seen as artists. So in my world, artists need inspiration. So to turn the page and seeing yourself as the director who would watch you, I would always wait for inspiration from you. So, and if you just want to be nice to me, then it's super, super, sorry to say, boring. So, but this is what actors tend to do. So they want to be seen nicely, and they want to be, so like with mom. So, but this is not art. So this is not what art is about. So we need inspiration from each of you, or this person needs an inspiration from each of you. So try to get that out of you by being you instead of being someone who is just want to be nice to someone.
Except for, I agree with George, except for if you're a horrible person. Don't be you. I'm so bored of everybody saying just be you, and I'm thinking there's quite a lot of people in the world right now that I wish they weren't just being them. So I just like, you know, if you're a nasty person, don't be you, be somebody else, but otherwise follow George's
Important point.
thing. Oh, Matthias.
I totally agree what you said. You have this technical aspect of casting, and that should be all be perfect, and that is something you can prepare properly. And then there's the thing you can't really and shouldn't maybe not influence. And I heard in a talk with an actor who got a leading role in a big project, who said he had different recalls, and he was so frustrated. And then he did a slate afterwards, you know, this introduction where the actor tells a little bit about himself, and then the decision makers or the director gave the response. The slate finally gave the impact, or that was giving the decision, and he said, okay, that's my lead actor for this role. And that was very exemplaric for this process and how subtle it quite often is, right?
Yeah, just to add to that, as an agent, I always encouraged a lot of our artists don't really want to do the publicity side. There are some people who love it and that's what they're in it for, but they don't tend to necessarily be the best artists. But a lot of artists, you know, struggle with the publicity side, and something I've always encouraged is if they're asked onto a chat show, if it's the right one, to do it, because then the audience is really seeing you as opposed to the performances you've played. For a perfect example, a client of mine, Anna Friel, who's a well-known British actress, was offered the role of Holly Golightly in Breakfast at Tiffany's on Broadway and in the West End, because Sean Matthias, the director, just saw her and was like, oh my God, she is Holly Golightly. But he hadn't seen that in any of her performances prior to that. And then on the flip side, just to kind of make things interesting, an example of someone who didn't go in as herself and didn't consult me or anyone else on this because she had the confidence of knowing that this is her decision, was Diane Kruger getting the role of Bridget von Hammersmark in Inglourious Bastards, because she knew, she thought she knew what Quentin would be looking for, and we had a history of him refusing to see her because he didn't believe she was German, which is quite funny. So he wouldn't see her with the US casting directors or the British casting directors. So I brought her in Germany through my friend Alex and Simone, who were casting the movie. And she went in totally not herself. She went in completely in character, just to completely convince him that, you know, he didn't want to see Diane Kruger, so she came in as Bridget von Hammersmark, and she got the part.
Yeah, no, I think it's really important just to be you and to also trust your gut. You know, trust your gut so you make good decisions. Don't try to please everyone. You're not going to please everybody. But anyway, let's move on to, because we're still on the technology side. What do you think, how do you think technology has helped or hurt the connection between actor and casting directors and the casting process? And Abby.
I took some water there.
Okay, well then I'll move.
Can you repeat it again?
Yes, I can. I want to know how you think technology, new technology, has helped or hurt the connection between the actor and the casting director.
Yeah, I guess because I'm not in casting anymore, that's a trickier one for me to answer, but I think that it's made it far more accessible. The kind of democratization of access has made it more accessible to anyone to self-tape, which possibly makes that much harder for some casting directors because they're being bombarded. But it does make it easier because the casting director will be able to see more people because there's only so many people you can bring in the room in a day. But as I think Laura was saying, it's then quite there's the temptation to self-direct and isolate yourself in a room, and I would encourage anyone to, hopefully you've all got actor friends, filmmaker friends who can work with you on that when you're self-taping and give you a kind of honest feedback as you do it.
George.
I think everyone knows the hurts of it, because no one taught all of us that it's first of all a business plan that we are dealing with, and that we are more used than we using that kind of technology. But on the other hand, so for some parts of it, yes, of course it's useful, because it helps to speed up processes. It made everyone, I mean, I'm born in the GDR. I was educated in school from someone like Karl Marx, that the moment where we're having the tools in our hands, that we can become creators ourselves. So this is something which is kind of useful, and for someone works and for someone not. But at the end, for this process of making castings or stuff, it's of course really useful, because it's so more easy accessible, doable for everyone. So it makes more the people, so the chance is equal than it was before, because it was much more related to how to organize all of these things, and it took much more time. So there was the kind of a beauty in it, but I see it quite critically in terms of that people started to shaping, people means in this case really actors, but this is of course a society thing, to shape themselves as kind of products, and not treating themselves more as a human being, and working much more on their public persona than on themselves as a human being. This is something which is really, I see really critical, and there's a tool which maybe you want to talk later about it, because there were a while ago casting directors asking to develop something like it calls About Me videos. And what I see from my clients and from others, they struggle a lot to do these kind of things, because immediately when they're getting this kind of task, hey, I should do it, then they're starting to selling themselves instead of being. And what I realized, and it's something I realized which made me in a way also really sad, was that there were a lot of people, they're not having any connection anymore to themselves to explain in a few words who they are. I mean, this is not an easy task in general, but through this process that we are becoming so used to social media, so-called social media, and this kind of tools, they lost themselves in it. And then they're starting and sending me something, it's like, hey, can you try to do it again, and try not to control. And it's the same with photos, doing photos. It's like, hey, take a friend and go and let him capture you, and not trying to control the image you want to have on the picture. So, but this maybe explains much more about you than this other picture.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting what you're talking about, because there's so much new technology. We've got through the casting on Zoom. Now things are getting better in terms of, you know, what I use in my office is Zoom, but attached to OBS, so we have better connection, better sound. Some of this is great. Some of it's very complicated, and there's also all the algorithms about how people find other people and the casting platforms. So it's not just the self-tapes, but it's also this new technology that is being rolled out every day. Like even last week, there was something, this is what I'm going to Laura, you know, where you can have somebody read your lines back to you like they were an actor when you're doing a self-tape. And it's crazy the amount of possibilities it opens up in a way, but it's also very scary. What do you think about having your lines read to you by an AI, Laura, in a...
If you don't have an actor or a coach, I think it's a way. So I think reality is changing, and we have to change too. We have to accept and do the best part. So we have to do good self-tape. And sometimes it's like, you know, like 3 days to prepare, and I'm working and I don't have the time. I don't have anyone to prepare. So if EA can help, is good.
Yeah.
It's
I also think, I mean, one of the things that I particularly dislike about self-tapes is that actors think that they have to learn about them. Whereas I believe that I have to learn how to identify if somebody is good in a self-tape. And I really think that directors are not being trained at film school, if anybody's involved in film school here, or producers, to see the possibility. Like, it drives me personally insane when a director says, oh, they haven't got it, or we give it to this person, they've got it. I said, well, if you'd explained it, they would have got it. And I find that very frustrating, that the way of understanding how self-tapes work is put on actors as opposed to being put on our side of the industry. But that's just it is. Matthias, how about you? What do you think is the most damaging thing, and what is the most positive thing with new technology?
Yeah, I mean, I love the opportunities that came along and come along with self-taping, because that is something we started very early. I mean, I remember that we sent VHS tapes to the States. It took 2 weeks, and it was very uncommon to that at that time, like 20 years ago or so. But we really forced it because we recognized it's an opportunity to get, or it's a door opener, and it's not an either or for, I mean, it's a people business, so it's not either this or that, and it was the first step, and maybe then it came along a screen test or a physical casting, and I see the same nowadays, and I can see how actors are using that opportunity differently, and got so flexible in that field with doing self-tapes, even on a train or on a plane, and it's really funny, and showing their seed that is there, and because we found out the talent will be seen, and maybe you speak later about that, but it's all about, and it sounds very maybe esoteric, but about energies. It's what it is to me in casting, and I can see that in self-tapes, and I don't really see a lot disadvantages in it, because we get really good feedback. We sometimes 2 or 3 years later, casting directors come along saying, I remember that performance at that time, and now I have a lead role to cast, and I would like to invite your client to a physical casting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I'm not just talking here about self-tapes, I'm also talking about AI, about all of the different technology. I mean, there's some great advantages. Equipment is much cheaper. You can get good microphones for under 100 euros to use. There's lots of things like that. The advantages, I think, are very clear. One of the things I always like to add when I'm talking to actors about the advantages and disadvantages that we've slightly touched on is that now many more people can be available, because when I started casting, if somebody wasn't available for the casting day, then they didn't get the role, and we moved on. So people have been talking a lot about it making the industry much more wide open, more opportunity, but it also means that there are more people available. And this is why, guys, you're getting more no's, because before I would have to do my list of the 20 people I could see in my room, and if, Emma was not available because she was shooting in the Canary Islands, then we had to move on and see Laura. If Laura was not available, and we would end up with the 20 people who hadn't worked, or who weren't working at the time. So that changes. And then the other thing, which I think is very important, is to remember that we are an industry of human connection, and it's not just who does the best self-tape. It's like what Abby said, a director can see you, he or she can see you on a chat show, or have met you at a festival like this, have seen you doing work, and then they see your self-tape, which has to be good, but it's not as linear. And then I think technology is making things a little bit more linear, like you read the script, you do the self-tape, you get the role. It's not, it's much more messy, and at least my office is very messy, and I'm very messy. But it's more chaotic, and our industry is still chaotic in that. So it's an advantage and a disadvantage. I think, it's very important to remember that we're not civil servants. We're not doing things in exactly the correct order. And the same with your self-tapes. They can be done on a plane. They can be done on a train. They can be imperfect. And I think we're at the crux now with that. We've had this 5 years or 4 years of extensive rollout of AI. but now we're getting a little bit bored of it. We've got perfection. So we're going to go back to more human contact, I hope.
I really hope that. When you were speaking earlier, Luci, it just really struck a chord with me that I remember in my early days in my career when I was in casting, which I loved. The magic was in the room with the director and the artists, and the opportunity to give a note if they weren't getting it, but the energy was right, or there was something that they saw. And of course, in this day and age, it's become easier and easier and easier to close yourself off behind a computer screen as a director, as a producer, as a filmmaker, as an artist, as an agent, because everything is so much more fast-flowing. And I think there are advantages and disadvantages. The advantage is, as an agent or an advocate of someone's performance, you can easily share a link of work that they've already done on screen or of a self-tape. I'm producing something at the moment with my director. His agent at CAA just asked a well-known actor who was desperate to be seen for this project, who no one thought was right, just got him to tape himself and sent the link directly on WhatsApp to the director, who watched it and said, you know what, Abs, he's definitely in the list now, And so there is that facility of use, but it does mean that it's so much easier for all of us filmmakers to not be in the room, and that's tough.
Yeah, and I think, and a lot of directors are quite introvert, much more actors. I mean, lots of actors are introverts as well. So being in the room is a very intimidating place, and people like avoiding it, but it is, like where Abby says, where the magic happens. And I think it's important that we don't lose that magic.
Yeah.
But there are loads of advantages
I would like to add something on it, Luci, because that's actually my moment.
Sorry?
That's actually my moment, what I love to talk about, because I'm talking about it now for years. And this is the reason why I quit with half of my clients to collaborate 3 years ago, not because they are bad actors, no, because they're lazy. And lazy means not lazy like lazy. They are lazy in terms of they adapted in their life this digital accessibility that everything 24/7 is there, and that means also for their daily life they go maximum to a film festival which is happening in their own city, if they go and if they watch. So because why I'm saying this is everyone who is here in the room is not be seen on a film festival as you are here as an actor or we as agents or however. In a cinema, we are just seen as an audience, and no matter if this director is shy or not, they want to know our opinion, what they have seen, but we need to get, sorry to say, our ass there. So, and this is what the most of the people forget about it because of they adapted in their life, and that's how it is. And that's how it's taking over, and that's how you're creating these new patterns and you take it also to your private life like that. And that's really essential in especially times which are so driven by technology, because to say it provocative, today your opposite can be read by an AI. Maybe tomorrow or the day after, because AI is not just learning your data, it's also learning your emotions. Don't forget about that. So maybe there will come this day where there is someone, and this is just, and I think we need to separate two, or at least I do, two different things in it. For me, there is really, and this is a kind of a reunion or a phoenix coming out of the ashes of the art of filmmaking, of someone who really cares about this art form, which is so needed in these times. I don't want to go in specific, but I think you know what I mean, politically, and what's going to happen in this world and how much fucked up it is. So talking about the art is one thing. Of course, they're using also technology. Talking about the industry is about talking about the god of efficiency. So that means everything has to go quick. And I just spoke with my ex-girlfriend, she's a DP, and she said, hey, can you imagine we're shooting now this film which before has 27 shooting days in 18 shooting days. So can you imagine how the energy on the set is here? I say, yeah, I think I can imagine. This is what you're all dealing with. And then the only thing that you have in your hand is to make your own decision about, do you really care about this art? And this is why your soul, this is the source your soul, let's put it like this, is feeded? Or do you want to be just running and trying to survive and making a career in the industry? I wish you good luck with this. So, and it needs a lot for, and of course there's all included, all these kind of elements which we are talking about, or tools which we are talking about, but it is much harder if you lose this contact to why you're doing this, because the most of you, of all of us, didn't start it to just make a career in it.
Exactly, and I think, that's such an important thing to say, because with the new technology, in theory, instead of working 27 days, you work 18. What are you going to do with the other 9 days? And in your personal lives, like, technology should mean that you can do self-tapes, you don't have to travel to castings. That should mean that you have more time. And this is going to be, for the younger generation, I think the biggest challenge is that you are going to have more time. Don't use your time to doom scroll on Instagram. Use your time to go to festivals, to see other people's work, to be part of the reason why. I talk about it a lot as well. Like, we all have to know why we do things, and it's going to be the biggest challenge with AI, which is taking away or making things more efficient. I can cook quicker. I can talk to people quicker. What do I do with the extra time? I've been thinking about this for a lot, and I do a lot of things with my extra time that I choose to do. And I try not to waste time so that I can be more creative. But if you're wasting your time as creatives and just doom scrolling and not coming, you guys are all, okay, you all get 10 points because you're here on a Monday morning listening to these people. So that's great, but keep doing that. Keep adding creativity and not allowing technology to take up all your time, which is kind of, I think, very important.
And I'd like to add something, because you spoke out of my heart. It's really something we discuss a lot at the agency. It's great to have all these technologies, but to remind ourselves why we're in this industry, which is the people industry. And so I couldn't really answer on your question regarding AI and what it does right now and what our fear is, but to get grounded again by going to events like this, to meet people and to discuss things, to get to touch ground, and because we can't fight the technologies that are coming up, right? We could just choose to what do we use in which way, but to stay focused and to be prepared to deliver in the moment where it's necessary in a casting, because that's what I experience very often with clients. Then the role is coming in and oh shit, oh that language, and oh horseback riding, no, I'm not prepared. And say, better be prepared. So these are for me the essential things in the daily business so far.
It's to remember, like for me, remember what makes us human beings and do more of that, and that's about the creation and authenticity. Now we're going to move on to the agent and representation part. So, I often say, actors are always coming to casting directors and they always say, oh, can you recommend me an agent? And I'm like, no, I can't recommend you an agent, because that's like recommending you a husband or a wife. They have to want you as much. And also, even actors who are in this room have asked me that, who can be my agent? Sometimes it's very clear to me. It would be like me going to somebody saying, oh, who should I get married to next? And I'd say, just get another dog. You'll be much happier, which is true. But it's very complicated, the relationship between actors and their representation. But it's a two-way thing. So and when it works, it's amazing. And when it doesn't work, it's kind of painful and difficult. Laura, I'll start with you. What do you think makes a good relationship between an actor and their representative?
I think sometimes actors doesn't know the role of the manager. So sometimes they expect more. They expect more communication, any week, any Monday, how are you? Are you okay? And this is not the work of the manager. I'm always speaking with actors because I feel that they are very frustrated about that. And then I say, you don't understand how it works.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's very important that they know.
Okay. Matthias, what makes a good relationship between an actor and their representative?
Yeah, the intro you made was perfectly right, I think, because it's like, yeah, it's a relationship, and you should trust your gut feeling. And what, yeah, do you feel right being with that person? And then it's from that point on where you make the decision together to get started, then you build that relationship. It's like in real life, like in a romantic relationship, you have to improve constantly. You have to do conversations and find new ways of collaborating. And this is very subtle. It's not these obvious things, and it's not like calling every Monday and you know, trust each other. And I think this is necessary. Otherwise, and it was interesting in the panel you did before, to hear all these different experiences you as actors made, and maybe we come back to that then in the Q&A. Yeah.
Really difficult topic. No, honestly, it's like, okay, let's pick it from what I said earlier. That because it's actually a big sentence when you said, "Hey, I quit with half of my clients." Just using an example, I'm coming to them and said, "Hey, on which festival do you plan to go this year?" And then they say this and this and that. So the year goes by, passed by, and then actually by which festival you went at the end? Oh, none. Okay, so, and then it started all this. And as I'm coming and want something from them, because I believe a relationship is always proactive. So that means both sides need to work and need to do something. And what I discovered with the most of the actors is coming back again to stucking in their head and stucking in a kind of a stereotype. They not even widen the picture and doing even the research of what an agent could do in this kind of relationship or not. And then what I learned is like that it's easier to find a solution, a reason not to do things, and this means not just film business, that means in entire life, not to do things because they didn't make sense. So what they totally not get is, coming back to the film festival, going to film festivals, is there is so many layers in between all of this. When you go just on a trip, what you discover by go with your colleagues, you can share costs. You share private life with them. You cook probably together. You hear about this person, and the same could be happening also with me, as we are close with. And that's what I need from my clients, to at least have this feeling they are interested in this art form. So, because then it's like, then if I wouldn't get this kind of feeling, then the entire thing is on my back. It's like, okay, they just put it on me and I have to deliver. And I'm not there to deliver, and that's why we always started with, the first quote is always like, imagine this is not a kindergarten. So, and yeah, honestly, I'm waiting that they understand what not only an actor, but also a casting director does in this job, and not take it just from the surface that they're doing research, because it's part, in my opinion, it's part of this business, of an understanding of a professional in it, not just to understand your position in it, also to understand all these other roles in it, and then it's much easier for all of us, because then it helps to find ways in it, and that's why I started with it and saying that it's a really different part, because if they're sitting in my kitchen table, then they will always say, yeah, you're so right, let's do that. And then it's like with my kids. You say to them something, hey, maybe do differently, yeah, and 1 week, yeah. The second week, so yeah, you're laughing. This is exactly how it works. Second week, half of it, and third week, forget about it. And at the end of the year, you come to the same, and at the end, it's always the same people who are traveling, it's always the same. And it's not expanding. And that was the reason, to sum it up, why I said, okay, I tried, I speak, we discussed, but nothing changed, so there is nothing to even explain it why I don't want to continue, because you not have done your homework.
So divorce. You break
Yes.
your relationship.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
frustrating for a representative because you always try to find new ways of putting your clients out there, giving them visibility, and this is such an important part of it. And it's not about only the photos, the show reel, and the typical and obvious things and materials.
Yeah, and it's very interesting to remember it is about communication. We'll move on to Abby, because some agents that I know tell their clients not to go to film festivals unless they have a film at the film festival, something I don't agree with. I do agree only perhaps at the ones like Cannes or Berlinale, where it's so expensive to go that if you can get very lost. But otherwise, I think that we as a community should celebrate filmmaking. And if you go to a film festival in Macedonia, or like the one that we were in Kosovo, you'll meet filmmakers and storytellers that are amazing and see things that you wouldn't see otherwise, and meet people. So that's things. Abby?
Well, yes, and just to add to that particular point, it's interesting listening to George, because I hadn't necessarily really thought of that, but it's something that I've even been aware of this trip, and having the privilege of seeing a first-time filmmaker's movie, which was fantastic, with an incredible leading actress who I, as a producer now, immediately texted her agent as soon as I saw it and said, is she available for a film where much bigger names were being offered this role? And because she's so brilliant already, she is available. She's not available. But there's the example. She is an actress in a category where there's a lot of competition, and she chose to work with a first-time filmmaker on something she believed in and was given the opportunity to really show her capabilities, which a lot of young actors don't have with some of the bigger filmmakers. Everyone might say, oh great, yeah, I want to do this next, Soderbergh movie or whatever, oh, they're doing the so-and-so movie or the... But actually, if you get the opportunity to play a much larger role with a burgeoning young filmmaker, a lot of the filmmakers that you might meet at some of these festivals, then that's an incredible opportunity for you. Just to add to what everyone said, I think the relationship between actors and agents is so crucial, and it is a relationship. And very many agents, my colleagues, my peers, have very different styles. And so your clients have to match your style. There are agents who do act a little bit like teachers and bosses and say, do your homework. I didn't mean this in a negative way, but like, you do your homework, or I'm not interested because, I've got bigger clients, whatever. Or there are, my style was very much, I will move mountains for you if I think that mountain is worth moving, and you need to know the difference, And I think trust, as you said, is crucial, because if you're being phoned all the time, that client is going to get on your nerves, and you're not going to want to work with them. And you need to understand as an actor that every minute on the phone that your agent is taking with you, they're not out there fighting for you and on the phone to the casting directors or the filmmakers or whatever else. So I think that's kind of clear. But it's really understanding that and not feeling like you have to be with A or B agency, really finding someone who believes in you. And that's easier said than done, obviously. But really getting to know your agent and getting to trust them and show them that you trust them. Because there's nothing more off-putting. It's like a personal relationship than someone who's very insecure all the time and tries to play you off other agents. In America, the agents are constantly ringing actors, trying to steal them all the time, promising them the world, and then they jump ship, and it's the same situation, So you just really need to trust your agent. And if you don't feel that you can, and if you're frightened to pick up the phone to them, then perhaps start looking elsewhere.
Very good. What makes you sign a new actor? What in the world would make you interested in somebody to want to have them with you on this journey?
I would come back to that, what you said, to this, you mentioned this is like a marriage. So I would flip the coin and said, okay, what would someone expect from me to marry me? And it's like not put too much attention on the word marriage, but it has, for me, it has to click. Mm-hmm. And this is happening, and that's maybe a question of a lot of people here in the room, how to meet, like in regular situations, and easily, the most easiest way to meet me is on a festival, as you said. So we're meeting here. We're meeting more often. It's my 11th festival this year, and there's 3 more to come. So it's not necessary to go to all, but on the smaller festivals, they somehow all have this kind of festival centers where you have all the people in one room or in one hotel or wherever it is. So Tallinn is a really great example of it. There is one hotel where everything's happening, and then there is 2 different cinemas, and then you go there and you are automatically meeting these people. But the question came often to me, and then I asked, like, how do you meet your future partner? So you went out without nothing in hand and just be yourself, and then someone liked the way you are.
Now that was a disaster. No,
and then it can become a disaster.
but that's what's great about the new technology now, is that you meet in the real world, like Georg said, but then you can check somebody's digital presence. So that's where
like
you
on
have
Bumble.
The same.
Spotlight or things. But it's very important that you remember that you meet people and then they will check you out to see what's available. So you have to match both what's the vibe, and then somebody can go, like I meet actors at festivals the whole time, and then I will check them out. So I will see their agent's page or I will see their show reel, and that combination for me is perfect, because most of us who work in this industry have been here a long time. We do work with our instincts, with our gut, what we feel, what somebody makes us feel, how they look at us. But then we need to have something to back that up.
Yes.
In my case, anyway, because.
And I think it's important to say that it should all happen on the same eye level, right? Because sometimes it looks like here are the agents and there are the actors. Oh no. And I mean, we are doing our homework as well, or we should do. In many ways, widen the horizon. It's not always related to film industry itself. It's also regarding totally other fields that are nurturing our daily work. And so only then I can expect it from my clients to do the same, you know.
How do you decide if you're going to take somebody new? What's your process?
It's what
really
Jörg said.
difficult
It's
to
when,
answer this
when it
question.
clicks. It's just, of course, it's the obvious
all
thing, like
actors
the
want to
skills
know
and the
the
type
answer.
and
I have them. I have an answer for this.
and
Sorry
the,
to.
and the willingness of just to,
Yeah.
to finish that, and the willingness to improve constantly, and that is something that creates a very creative energy that is so powerful, and that's the subtle thing about what it leads to in best case, that people around feels that. And I started with a client a long time ago who we together grew, and he said, okay, come on, let's go, let's make a trip to Los Angeles and let's meet the casting executives there. And so I said, yeah, okay, great, let's do that. So giving each other these impulses. So that's what I think.
2 examples, because so he is working now with someone. I started working because this young actress, was in school with my daughter. My daughter came home and said, "Hey, Papa, you should have a look on this girl in my class, in my how do you say, in the class,
my year.
She was in a different class in my year,
year.
yeah, in my year, because she's interested in acting, and so I met her. And this meeting was so special because she was a really special teenager, in the way of not stucking in her head. She was so natural, and then we started working. And I said, okay, let's give it a try. You're young, you go to school, please go to school. And then it came naturally because she was committed to what she ever does. So if it's horse riding, then she's doing horse riding. Mm-hmm. So she's now becoming a name in the German film business, And to give you another example, and that's why I was saying, hey, I have one. I went to a concert, and I saw a guy on stage, and he's surprisingly also with me here in Mallorca. And I saw literally an animal on stage in a really good sense, and I was like, wow. And then I went to him, he's like, did you ever thought about acting? He's like, somehow yes, because I never tried, but I would like to try. And I said, hey, you met your partner. So that's why he's now with me here. So he's not even an actor, he not went into a school. So that's also somehow it can start. So taking both examples, school, and then I met her in my kitchen, or a concert means they are public spaces. That's where you all are. In cities, in exhibitions, not just speaking about film, in regular situations, and then something magic can happen.
Okay. Do you guys read all the applications that you get from actors saying, dear,
That's important.
please will you represent me, and sending all your stuff?
Yes, I read.
Okay. Are they interesting?
No, the most of them not.
Yes, exactly.
Because they're boring, because they do this, what I explained earlier about this casting process. They want to be nice to me, instead of I want to know who they are. But this is hard enough to describe it in a few words. And there was a few, they did except for me, a kind of a video hello, which was much more interesting because, first of all, it was not the regular way, and it was much more interesting because you see what he put in it or what he left out of it, and that was something great. And I have quite often people who are writing me in languages which I'm not even understanding, which is really strange.
This is a really good thing about AI.
Yeah.
You can
Yeah.
now write perfectly. It's a very weird thing that I don't think most people know about casting directors, in my experience, that we have to be kind of perfectionists. It's like a sort of tick that we have, which means that we find bad spelling very upsetting. And since AI has got, it's very weird because if lots of actors are dyslexic, you don't have to spell well or write well to be a good actor. But when you're talking to a casting director, it's quite nice if it's well spelt, because we have a very attention to detail. It's just part of our personality. And so AI has resolved that. Spell check, it's amazing. How about you? How do you decide who you want to work with? How do they come into
Yeah,
your
I
life?
mean, that was kind of a thing when I was an agent. You get so many applications constantly, like landing on your desk, and quite often not landing on your desk because your assistant has already filtered them and put them away. And I used to find it really tragic that people were wasting their time and money doing that. I might be saying the wrong thing, I'm just talking from my own
No,
experience.
but it's very important
Yeah.
that we talk, because one of the biggest problems, I think, in the industry is sometimes on these kind of panels or in industry, we go on the party line. So we say what's correct, and it's not always what's true. You know, it's much better that you know that we all receive hundreds. I have 5,473 emails that I haven't answered. So I looked this morning, yet.
So,
to the club.
yeah. So I think a headshot is such a bland thing, and I know that it's still an industry-wide thing. All the actors have to have headshots, and they spend money on them. And the most important thing as an agent, advising your client on who to use for headshots or which headshots out of the choice that you choose, is to capture an essence of you. But it's still so boring and bland, and you receive a flat CV and a flat picture, image, and you kind of think, what am I getting from that? I haven't got time to look at that. So for me, it was always, and I know times have moved on. I haven't been an agent in the traditional sense for over 10 years, but, and you get digital stuff. But if I'm sharing material on one of my management clients, or even on an actor that I want my director to consider for a movie that we're producing, I use the moving image. I find stuff that they've done. I send links. It doesn't have to be a big glossy movie. And that goes back to talking about trying to immerse yourself in the world of emerging filmmakers. One great thing that technology has enabled and streamers have enabled is there's so much more content out there and so much opportunity for making content and for homemaking content even. And I think that the more you can show somebody how you perform in the moving image and how you are, the better that's the easier that is going to be, and send someone something where they can click the link, you know, so it's quick and easy and it's not a big pile on a desk.
I'm just going to adjust my
I'd
hair
like
for
to-
1 minute.
I can-
Loud as hell. Talk.
Whilst your microphone is being fixed. I think it's, or to answer your questions, we don't manage either to answer all applications. We tried for a long time, but it's not possible anymore. But it's the same with us that we, or people, actors, or also from other fields, clients, creatives find us, or we find each other on other occasions. And I think each agency has its specialty and uniqueness for several reasons. So, and I think we share, I guess, a common work ethics, but still our agencies are different, which is great and important because you can choose accordingly. And as I spoke about improvement and training on our end, then it's something like we started a couple of years ago with creating a safer, let's say, safer space for creatives from marginalized groups.
Yeah.
And because we said if we want to represent such clients, we have to be prepared, and we have to also prepared in language and also to the outside and to, yeah, so we had to make our improvements there. So, and according to that, certain kind of actors are approaching us, or directors, cinematographers, and scriptwriters that we represent.
Yeah, it's really interesting to think about. One of the things as well that I just want to say on this is because I moderated a very similar panel at Sitges Film Festival, but with American agents and managers, and it's different. And it's so nice to talk to Europeans because we're talking about filmmaking. Nobody's mentioned money at all. And it's just to know that just to look for the agent that's going to work for you, look for the representation that is going to be on that journey with you, but know that we are in this industry, we have things in common, but it's really the differences that make us interesting. And this would be a very different debate if I was sitting in LA now, because they'd be saying, oh, we're looking for who's going to make us money, or not, depending on who they were. And it's nice to recognize who we are as Europeans as well. We're going to go very quickly on to one more topic, and then we'll open up, for the Q&A in about 5 minutes. So I just wanted to talk about something that actors are obsessed with: social media, branding, social influence. Actors are now being able to take control of their visibility, but they're terrified as they say things, how it works, what to do. What's your opinion? Laura, what's your opinion on social media then?
I think actors have to be authentic on social media. They have to reflect who they are. Mm-hmm. So this is the most important because it's like a self-tape, a video presentation.
Okay.
So, and in Instagram or social media, you can see another layers that maybe not in the acting, no, or his life, can be interesting.
Okay.
Tell us.
So I have a wonderful experience to share with you here. On Friday, we went to a club, and then I met two people, and then I was like, let's somehow exchange, not numbers. He said, hey, give me your Instagram. I said, I don't have. They were like, what? How can you, so the bottom line was, how can you stay alive without? So I'm looking to this quite critical because, as I said earlier, I think the moment when you start using it, you're creating a public persona of yourself. So this is really, in my opinion, really essential to get to know, which is not a know not to do, but very essential to know what you do there and what you be there and what you want with it. And that it stick to a technology, so you need to understand how this technology is working, otherwise nothing will happen with this. So if someone want to do it, I just kept our Instagram because of my client forced me. So myself, I don't have any kind of this so-called social media. That's why I always call it so-called social media, because I found it so not social. But yeah, it helps in some reason, and for some reason, and it helps, of course, if I want to do research and I go to my business account, and then it's easier to find something from a doctor to someone. And even my friend John Baker casted his entire film, not casted it, he was just looking for specific people, then he found them there. So it's like we discussed earlier, there's a beauty and a beast in it, and that what I discovered is that the most of people didn't know what they're dealing with. That's the sad part of it.
And I think that we definitely don't know what we're dealing with, because even the people who think they know what they're dealing with don't have all of the information. I could talk about this for about 5 hours, so I'm not going to. Matthias.
It's so important and it's so unimportant at the same time. And I think because of the authenticity, and we have this conversation with a lot of clients of ours, and of course also with the more popular ones, because some really say, I don't want to get out of that. I don't feel comfortable anymore. And yeah, if you can serve that, and yeah, with being authentic and with good stories which are telling us something about you, about the actor, the actress, and then it can be very helpful. But sometimes I think, you should rather stop being present on social media, because it's really like a flashback in a negative way, because we tried over years to build something. I won't say image, because this is a very difficult word, but yeah, a certain view on a creative person, an actress, an actor, and then it turns into a very negative field, like too commercial, because they are selling products constantly, or putting pictures online which are not telling me anything, like food, or and I think this is important to be aware of, that it's really a strategic instrument that can, have also a negative effect on you.
Abby?
Yeah, I think it's a very, very useful tool, but also a very dangerous tool. And I personally am terrible in that, when you were talking about how important it is to have a digital presence, and I'm sitting there thinking, yes, I really... A lady came up to me just before and said, I looked at your website after the talk yesterday, it's great. And I was like, oh God, yes, of course. I put that up in 2014 and I haven't updated it since. It's this pressure, unfortunately for us, behind the scenes, who are also not always behind the scenes. That's okay, but I think for actors and creatives, they find that self-promotion very uncomfortable. And so I always kind of say, less is more. I think when a lot of people that I'm sure we all work with are very much in the public eye and they feel that pressure, but if you're authentic to your audience and you share things that show a bit of yourself, when people are used to seeing just what they see on screen, that's great, and you feel comfortable with that. But I do think a lot of the actors that I like to see pop up on Instagram, it's because they're just promoting something that they've just done that's coming out, and you can see that they're using that as the right tool. They're not overdoing it. They're just saying, hey, here's the trailer for my new show that's on Apple next week or whatever. And I think that's possibly the easiest benchmark or roadmap to take is, okay, just make it about work, or just don't. I post about my dogs most of the time, and then I think, oh gosh, people are going to think Abby just lives in a hoodie in flip-flops with her dogs in Cornwall by the beach. Is she relevant anymore? Does she actually do anything? So then occasionally I think, I better post that I was here or there, and then I don't post for ages. So I'm a terrible example of somebody who, yeah.
I also think it's very important just to make sure that everyone understands that it depends where you are in the industry, because, for people of our generation or older, we have industry leverage already. So we don't need, all we have to do right now is not fuck it up. you know, and fucking it up would be putting myself with bikini on internet or looking like Abby says. But for younger generations, you're working with younger people whose lives are much more digital than ours. And it's going back to what we're talking about. I just have to say this, so it's like being authentic, but I strongly believe that you can have an authentic professional persona which is different to your authentic if you're a pain in the ass. Real authenticity. Obviously, real authenticity is very attractive, but once again, make sure that your real authenticity is actually quite pleasant to work with, because otherwise, sorry,
I mean, kind of personal, but not private.
Yes, it could be. I think authenticity. I think there are so many actors that I know who are, for example, they're incredibly good artists, but they hate social media. So don't push it. You don't have to do this. You don't have to do anything that anybody else does. You have to find your way. And there's people who are very, very shy or neurodivergent in some way, but they have a strategy on social media where they just talk about work. And that works perfectly for them because it's authentic, because it's work that they like of other people. But I personally do not like seeing, I mean, I like seeing cookery when it's from somebody who's a cook, but not watching what an actor had for breakfast is of no interest. But it's changing all the time, and I love dogs. So
let me just add.
Oh, there's one other thing I want to say.
I think, and of course, I discuss this with my clients because a few of them, they are really active on it. And I think if someone of you started, then to understand that's a business tool, it's one thing, and a business tool should be handled by someone. And that not means just a professional, that at least should mean someone who has an interest in this kind of handling this kind of work. So because it's work, it's a lot of work. So, and if you have someone of your friends who's doing it and just like getting everything, I like this example of I started at least in a garage with 5 friends, this completely stereotypic, one of them had a camera and then like a punk band, and then it was like, okay, he is now the DP, and he, of course, they were not, but he was doing this. So one of these guys should be now the social media manager, who should know, who can help you to do that you are not on your own, because you can understand, because these pictures are getting bigger and bigger to understand the ecosystem of something. And you need to at least understand the wider picture of it if you really want to handle it and not want to get sick from it.
yeah, and it's very complicated at the moment. I think that we'll talk about it again next year. It's very complicated at the moment because of what you've mentioned already, politics. You know, when do you feel that you have to stand up and talk about what you believe in, but if you think that's going to go against your career. So this is an open-ended conversation that there is no right or wrong answer to. You have to work out. And I really believe consulting professionals, but don't believe, like there's a lot of people who say they're professionals and they're not as well. Anyway, what is one piece of advice that you would like, before we go into the questions, which we're going into now, one piece of advice that you would give to actors about this era? What is the Matthias
in the context of what we spoke about is find your own pace, because I find this very challenging, and what you very often are saying, Luci, it's about community, and this is trying to have people surrounding you and like-minded people, and bring yourself a bit down to a normal tempo, a normal speed, because industry got really crazy, high speedy, and that drives us all sometimes crazy and is taking our focus.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Laura?
First of all, take care of yourself, be confident, and know how the industry works to understand everything and not take personal when you have a no or something like that.
Check out if your curiosity is alive. Because this is what I just had this talk with someone outside, that I think, and this is not a film-related thing, in general in our society, this is the biggest issue for me, that I have the feeling curiosity disappears. Mm. So, and if this is alive, then this will lead you to the other things. The rest you can learn.
Exactly. Find your tribe, find your community, find... Abby?
You've all said the perfect things. I think everyone is different, and bringing your own humanity and your own difference in an increasingly digital world is so important. And keeping your curiosity, your passion alive, because it's a really tough industry to progress in, especially as an actor, and your conviction every single day. That you do want this for your career, and that you are going to do the work and be patient and grow in quiet confidence.
Couldn't agree with everybody more. Now we're going to open up to the floor for some questions. So is there somebody handing a mic around? Yes, great. Who has a question?
Hello?
Yes?
Yeah? You hear me? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a question, it has to do with self-tapes and what you said about everything like changing. And I know that in America it's really common to read your scene. But I don't know what you think of people doing it like in a self-tape, because I know actors that have done it and like put the lines on top of a camera, and it, maybe you disconnect more. I've personally never done it, but I wanted to know your opinion. And also, what do you think about actors sometimes going off the text, what we're handed? Because I know that can sometimes it's tricky because maybe the director's also the writer, and maybe they're like,
Who wants to answer?
Please don't read. There is more important things that the lines is how you listen to the other character, how you change when you listen to the other, and I don't agree with Laura.
Matthias?
Question for you.
Well, I can answer the question.
Yeah.
I mean, I was really interested because an American colleague of mine posted on social media this week saying that in America they like people to have the text like this because it shows they're not coming fully prepared. She's a very good friend of mine, but I couldn't disagree more. In Europe, I think Georg said it, or Matthias said it, people, and Abby certainly also said it, they want you to turn up and look like you were born to play the part here. And that sort of thing. And then for me, because I can answer this question, there's a big difference between if you're doing an audition for American TV or you're doing it for an independent European film director. Because where there is a writer's room, every script change has to be documented, and they want the actors to be able to say the words in the right order. They're not necessarily, I won't say what I'm going to say, but you can improvise slightly more on European with independent film directors when the director is the person making the decision. But it is genuinely safer, actually, to stay on text for most of the roles, except for if it's a lead role where you're being brave and bringing your artistic version. But even then, I would recommend respecting the script. I don't know, what do you think?
I would like to add, because you can agree or disagree with it, but I heard also from casting directors, and this is what I said always to my clients, do a different, a second version of that, what you're supposed to do, and then you have two different ones, and then that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I think if you're reading from a script, you're showing all the decision makers that you can't even be bothered to learn one page of lines, and it's all about, let's bring up money. It's all about money at the end of the day, and they don't want actors who aren't coming to the set prepared. So to me, it's just the hugest risk not to have just learnt the lines.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think we all see if someone is thinking something or just pretending. And I think that's the interesting part. If I'm watching self-tapes, and we are watching all our client self-tapes before they send it, because I learn a lot about my clients, and sometimes there is like a break where you can see, okay, now there is an irritation, and she or he is out of that moment. I find it very interesting.
I think what my colleagues who are talking about is what they also don't want to see you like being a robot, so that you're not over-prepared, so you've done it 500 times at home, so you're not, I think Abby said it earlier, what we want to see is listening. Acting, Laura certainly said it. There has to be dynamics in it. So that's it. Who else has a question?
First of all, thank you all for being here. What a luxury for all of us, I think. My name is Dina. My question applies to me personally, but I hope it's also relevant for others here. It's about showreels. So the last 7 years, I've been extremely spoiled to be offered like 2 to 3 theater roles every year. But that means I have not been working in TV or film. Do you recommend adding theater, which is usually quite poorly filmed compared to a professional TV or film footage? Or is it better to leave that out and let the resume speak for your experience in it? Yeah, I hope my question makes sense.
I would like to say something about that, because I had it also, I was speaking earlier about someone who is not even an actor. The great thing on these times we were talking about earlier is that all of you have a phone and all of you have friends. And in my opinion, you can do something on camera, acting, and someone can film you, and you can at least try to make yourself a scene. Because the great thing is, at the end, you will show how good it could be, because you can rehearse forever if you want this kind of thing. Then you have that, what other people name showreel. So that you're not necessarily, because theater sometimes it's not working, for me at least, not working really in a showreel. So I can watch it, and so yeah, there is some captured theater, and then there's a lot of camera, boring.
Exactly.
You know.
It doesn't work for me in a showreel.
No. But it would be nice maybe to see reviews. So along with your showreel or whatever material you're sending, just pick out like the best lines from your reviews and some stills of you in that character on stage. That's always really useful.
Yeah.
Do you mean inside the showreel?
No, you can have on a press package. Matthias?
Yeah, I mean, if you have an interview out of a TV show, or I don't know, then it can be helpful. Or you, I think still the About Me is a very controversial thing. We discuss it a lot because, as someone already said here, if someone is capable of doing it in an authentic way, then it's very helpful, I think, not just to transport language. If you have different language skills, then you can show them easily, but you also tell something about yourself. But if I agree, I think, Georg, you said it, that most actors are presenting themselves, and then it doesn't work. It's counterproductive.
And I think a good, well-written bio really helps, because this is one of the advantages. We just get people to self-tape. You know, I don't need to see somebody's showreel if Matthias or Abby or Georg or Laura comes and says, oh, I've just met this amazing actor, they would be perfect for the role. I say, get them to self-tape. That is on one level, but obviously it just depends where you are in the industry, because we're not going to put somebody in to play a lead role in a film that needs the lead role to help with the financing who doesn't have the work. And showreels are such a pain in the ass anyway, because no actor has the perfect showreel. So they're really, I think showreels were sent to torture actors because they're always irrelevant, because they never have their up-to-date work in them, because you're not allowed to put it in for 2 years. And I know usually that an actor's done work, it won't be in their showreel. I spend most of my time looking at the reason I look at people's showreels is to make sure that if I send it to a studio executive, it's not going to ruin their job, lose their job, because most European actors and British actors have done, TV soaps, I think in Germany as well, so they're either dying in a hospital bed or crying beside a hospital bed, and then they put that into their showreel, and if I send that to somebody at Netflix or any of the studio or Amazon, they will say, oh, but we wanted a film actor. This guy just does local TV. So I spend a lot of time telling people to remove their crying and dying scene, or they put their scene where they have been with a very mega famous actor, but they're the waiter, and they put the coffee there. And I'm like, why did you put that? Oh, because I want people to see that I did a scene with Julia Roberts or whoever. And I'm like, you were being a featured extra and I'm trying to get you into a lead series role. So please remove that and just put in the bio, loved working with Julia Roberts back in the day. Don't have that from your beginning of your career. A show reel is not the homage of your work, it's to get you to get a job. But like all of what we've been talking about today, there are many ways to get you to that job. Some directors look at social media like Sean Baker, some don't, some hate social media, some there's many, many different ways to get on people's lists. And a show reel is just one of them, but it is, given modern technology and our timings, which was what you were talking about, it is very annoying, in my opinion. I hate them. But I spent a lot of time looking at them. Yeah. Any more questions? Do we have time? Who's?
No, I think you can do one more.
Okay, one more question.
I got one question. I was living in Madrid for 7 years and I moved back to Mallorca around 3 years ago. Since that, I have no one to do me the lines. So how important for you is when you see audition, that the audition have someone doing the lines? Because all my auditions, and Luci knows perfectly, because I got the pleasure to the audition for her, are without someone replying me. So I have always to improvise, to do monologues. Sometimes we're a huge audition. There is a noise, there is something that caught me, and I have to stick with that. And in the editing, I do some cuts. So how important is for you to having someone reading the lines for you? And with the AI thing that we were talking about before, do you know a really good app that can help me to read my lines?
There are lots of good apps you can investigate. We talk about this a lot on the Actors Hub. I think I'm going to answer this because I'm the person here who looks at the self-tapes and yours. Guys, it's really important to remember that what I couldn't agree with George more, don't be lazy. Like if you go to a new town, meet other actors, go to a scene study class, be in a community, find people who can help you, work out how you are at the top of your game. I don't give a shit how you prepare, but I want you to be at the best that you could be. Some people are amazing at imagining a world. They don't need anybody there. They can react to a butterfly going past, and you would believe that they were in love with the most beautiful person in front of them. Other people are shit at it. You just have to know what you're good at, and then tape yourself. I always recommend tape yourself doing a self-tape with a real human being in the room, then tape yourself doing it with an app or whatever. Work out when you're the best and then do that. And if you're better when there's a real person in the room, get a real person in the room until your career has enough leverage that people are seeing your work. And it's very unfair because I should be able to tell that you don't have somebody in the room. I should be able to think, oh, but Cesar is going to be great on set. But I have to show that tape to people who are not trained to look at self-tapes, and they want to see somebody whose eyes are moving, who's looking like they are listening. Laura said it. Listening and making the other person react are the most important qualities of an actor. It's not what you do when you say the lines, it's what you do when somebody says lines to you. That's what happens. And if you can do that with an app, that's amazing, and many people can. Voice actors do it all the time. But if having a real human being with you makes you better, it's like many things in life. You can do them on your own, but actually having a real person makes them better sometimes.
Let me just add to this, just quick, because you're the professional on it. I discovered from talking about my clients a lot of creativity in the way they made it happen, and they made it to a game for themselves and not becoming hectic. They were like, okay, let's play this. And then they started faking, at that time, even a Skype conversation. They recorded themselves and then they put them on a computer because they know how to do that. I'm not. But they did it, and it was quite interesting to watch it, and for some it works and for some not. So if you keep it playful for yourself, then you will never have this kind of stress. And for all of you, be really happy to have someone like Luci in the room who's speaking straightforward, because there's too much often we're speaking people too nicely, I have to say, on stage, because you should be challenged So to move your,
Yeah.
you
and
know
we-
what I mean.
That's it. So thank you very much to everybody for being here. Thank you to the panel for being incredible. And be creative, go to festivals, enjoy, and just be authentic unless you're not a nice person. In that case, don't be authentic.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much, Luci.